So new laws around punishing petty theft again, and those ones we talked about last night, the coward punch laws came into effect as well.
Get caught and you could get fined on the spot, just like a speeding ticket. Just one of the tough new measures unveiled today to battle retail crime. The harsher penalties include bigger fines and longer prison sentences, and are aimed at deterring thieves and encouraging shopkeepers to report low-level offences. But some are labelling the move confusing. Jacob Johnson has more details and reaction.
From pocketing a few items to stealing a trolley full of food, shoplifting costs Kiwi businesses $1.4 billion a year. Supermarket staff see it every day.
Overwhelmingly, frustration is an issue for our team, and also just that there's a bit of fear in there when you get some heavy aggression coming with inside the stores.
Now the government's proposing a new ticketing.
Yep, and the question would be,
Jason, how much in super profits did Woolworths generate last year?
He's not answering.
No, he's not answering.
I think he's afraid to answer.
Even if I was there, he wouldn't answer it.
No.
It's a bad question.
You've stumped him. Look at him. Look at him. He refuses to answer, Chewie. Hey, look at you. 1-0 Chewie.
There's more robbery being done by the supermarket duopoly than shoplifters. Fucking guarantee it.
Coming with inside the stores.
Now the government's proposing a new ticketing regime to stop thieves.
So a retailer calls the police, they turn up, issue a ticket on the spot?
Yes, it could happen in that way.
Can I just say as well, Mr. Goldsmith, this was one of the worst. I watched the whole thing. One of the worst press conferences I've ever seen. Everything was, yep, well, yes, yep, well, it was like he was not the CEO, not in upper management, but like 3 levels down, and all the people above him had just got norovirus, and he was handed the speech to go and do it on their behalf. That's honestly how it felt. I don't know why he feels so kind of pathetic, but it was pathetic. That's the right word for it.
That way, if the police aren't available immediately, then there could be CCTV coverage or footage which demonstrates that.
Like, put it this way, this is the good stuff, because they showed it on One News. So this is the good. This is the good. The time he responded well.
Or footage which demonstrates that person.
He says that hinges on being able to identify the offender properly.
The speeding camera system for shoplifting doesn't.
Sonny gets to share some thoughts as well, Chewie.
Sonny, the guy that's paid, what, 390 grand a year to consult on this fucking terrible bullshit? Well, he was everywhere when Labor was in government, but he's been fucking MIA for months.
Wow, he's probably
now he's come out.
He's probably been spending his money on, like, South Pacific holidays and stuff, Chewie. But he's been busy doing things.
Seem workable to me. I mean, you've got a overworked and understaffed police force already.
Shoplifters would face a fine of up to $500 if they've stolen less than $500 worth of goods. Anything more than that would come with a fine of up to $1,000. The minister says currently the administrative burden deters a lot of retailers from making official complaints, meaning a lot of lower level offences go unreported.
What we actually do in the end is go, how much is it worth for us to do that?
The government also changing penalties for shoplifting offences that are taken to court, with a maximum of 1 year in prison for goods under $2,000, a maximum of 7 years in prison for goods over $2,000, also creating a new aggravated theft offence when items are stolen in a threatening or disorderly manner. This Queen Street store pleased.
We want them to actually face the necessary consequences that they deserve.
The changes recommended by a ministerial advisory group. Its work's already led to a plan to allow the public to make citizens' arrests during the day.
There are lots of loopholes in our current laws that we are, removing those loopholes.
I do find it interesting that as an advisor, and maybe all advisors would say this, but he speaks about we, as in the government. We are doing this. We are removing. Like, maybe an advisor would put themselves on the team and say that, but it is particularly interesting that he's not part of the we, but he's speaking like we are doing. This is like, no, you are advising and they are doing, but the we. I mean, maybe I'm being petty, but it was an interesting observation.
Removing those loopholes, we are closing those loopholes.
Woolworths still has some questions over the proposed ticketing plan.
I've still got to look at the exact detail of how it works, and particularly around if customers come in and they get the fine or the ticket, as they said, but it's just working out what that means for us as a retailer.
The bill will be introduced in the coming months, the government hoping it'll be in place by this time next year. Jacob Johnson, One News.
So that's number one, Chewie. There is another part of this conversation, which is Mr. Goldsmith this morning on Big Herald News, where they talked about the one punch
Don't give
law.
him ideas, Pat.
Big Herald News. Then we're going to do that. We're going to figure it out. We'll get there in the end. I still like Sir Christopher of Luxon. I think we've got to keep that going as well. But first of all, changes to the Retail Theft Act. Any thoughts?
Oh, it's just more fiddling on the fucking edges, isn't it? It's already illegal to shoplift. It's already illegal to assault someone while doing the theft, right? These changes are just rearranging the deck chairs. It's going to mean that poor people are going to end up with big fines that they can't pay anyway. So much, look, this is remarkably similar to the story that we talked about last night. Does this change anything? Like, these guys are big talking about deterrence, like tougher legislation and bigger fines stops people doing things. And it doesn't. It stops people that might be teetering on the edge of doing something.
Yeah.
But the shoplifters that were all highlighted in that story, the ones that were apart from the file footage of someone helping themselves to a whole bunch of key rings, the people that are going in and stealing a whole bunch of meat from a supermarket to sell on Facebook Marketplace, right? They're as blatant as you can get. And the reason that they're able to do that is that they know that they'll be gone before the police arrive because there's not enough police.
And did you hear they opened up their new police school, Chewie? So there's not enough people who want to be police officers to get them to their 500 number by November this year. So what they thought they'd do is they would split that not enough people between two police schools to try and get to their 500 mark. So, they're doing what they can. They're putting on the appearance, at least, of doing that. I am interested to find out more about this ticketing system because I might not be turned off to that. Now, the reason I would not be turned off to that is if they treated it like a speeding ticket, because that's what the example they gave, which means you have committed a very minor offence. Here's a fine. It's not a criminal conviction. It's not on your record. So I would be interested to hear more about that. But like we've found out before, sometimes an idea that comes up by this government that you kind of go, oh, interesting. There is lots of stuff in the background we haven't yet known about. Because to be honest, do we need to fill up the courts with 13-year-olds who have nicked a packet of cigarettes? Do we need to go through all the costs and the hassle and the time and all that? Or if it's something very minor, I'm open to this idea of going, you did something wrong, you broke a law, here's a fine, it's $200, and there's no, there's no criminal conviction there. I'd be interested to know more about that. But as we always say, the devil is in the detail, and we have heard from the devil, but the devil hasn't given us all the information yet, Chewie. Anyway.
Yeah, look, as someone that works in retail, I hate shoplifters. I hate people that people that work in shops, they make their job harder, and I think this was one of the first criticisms I had of this thing, like the citizen's arrest sort of thing. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not going to get stabbed. I'm not going to throw myself at someone, and I can understand that feeling. Certainly in other jobs where I took a lot more ownership over it, I probably would have chased a shoplifter and got fucking screwdrivered to death. But I'm older and wiser now. That shit's insured. I think there is a danger in those citizens' arrests, and I think it will lead to more injuries and potentially more deaths. I think it's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
I acknowledge what you're saying there, that if this... like a speeding ticket. I can
but
see
only because that's the example they've used. And if they're going to use the example of a speeding ticket, unless it's a very serious crime like you're doing 120 and a 50, there's no criminal element to it. So if they're going to do it like that, I would like to know more about that. That would seem to be keeping people out of courts. That would seem to be keeping people out of a criminal record for a very, very minor offence. But I'm not putting my seal of approval on it now. And you know how much this government needs my seal of approval before they do anything, because we don't have all the details. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And then the other aspect of it is, isn't it amazing when times are tough, when people are losing their jobs, when the cost of living's through the roof and everybody's wages are going backwards while their costs are going upwards, that the government can easily come up with new ways to make life even fucking harder for little to no gain. And when we're talking about the supermarkets, I have little to no sympathy to the effect on their bottom line of shoplifters. I have an enormous amount of sympathy for the supermarket workers that might feel like they're obligated to put their bodies on the line to stop someone affecting their employer's bottom line, because some of those employers will hold those employees personally responsible for not doing enough to stop someone leaving with a supermarket trolley full of meat. Right? That's not your job. Don't work for minimum wage in a supermarket and think you need to be a hero because you'll bleed out in the car park before anybody gets there.
And if you're the criminal, Gary's got some advice. When you steal butter, rub it all over yourself to make it easier to avoid capture as you flee. Doesn't work with cheese. So, you know, we're projecting and giving advice to both sides, Chewie, both to the supermarket worker and the person who can't afford $18 for a block of butter. Didn't we hear that yesterday? $18 from somewhere? Someone said that.